I had no autonomy over my business. That's the biggest reason why I stopped, because they promised me that, oh, it's your own business. You can run it how you want. If you don't want to do it this way, then you can try it a different way. But I know what's best for you, so I'm going to tell you to do it this way. Hopefully, you follow what I say. They weren't even letting me pay myself. Sometimes I'd have like $0 on my paycheck per week out of my own business just because they said I need to save it. Like, I think the most that they would let me pay myself when I like bills or something was like $500. I'd like make more money being a rep working off commissions than being an owner.
Devin, I believe you are the first former Credico owner that we've talked to. We've talked to plenty from Smart Circle, a few from Sidcore. I don't know about Credico. I think you might be the first one. So I'm curious to see what the similarities are going to be, but I have a feeling that they're probably going to be pretty intense. So let's start with your background in Credico. You told me before we started that you started in May of 22. So a couple years ago. So you've been out for a little while. Take me through that beginning time. Like, what drew you to Credico? What kept you coming back every day, and that sort of thing.
Yeah, for sure. So when I first started, I was just graduating college, and that's mainly just a main target for these big corporations like Credico, Smart Circle, is to go after college students that don't really have any experience or have done internships or anything like that. They just go right after them because they don't really know what it's like. Like, I even hired plenty of college students myself when I was an owner, um, just because they reminded me of myself when I was first coming out of college, because everyone at that age is just like pretty hungry to make money right away. And the way that they set up interviews, is just very short instructions, like get rich quick type of thing. And to anyone that like loves money, that's like very appealing. The person who interviewed me was he was on a retrain. He was an owner before, but he got demoted because his office didn't do very well. So at the time I started, he was at a step down. He was retraining to become an owner again, which
Hmm.
I didn't know about. I thought he was just a normal employee at the time, but he was really trying to get his crew together to be able to open up his office again. But even before the day I started, just in the orientation, it was right around Memorial Day in May. And the owner at that time asked me to come in on Monday, which was Memorial Day, and I was like, "Wait, hold on a second. Like, isn't that Memorial Day?" And he's like, "Yeah, it is Memorial Day." And I'm like, "You guys are working." So that was just like a big red flag that I seen the entire time. Like, even now that I'm working a normal job where I'm really flexible with my hours, it was so nice to have like a long 4-day weekend,
Yeah.
um, just on the 4th of July here, because we had to work every single holiday, um, until like 4 o'clock. I was missing out on a lot of stuff. But after that orientation and my first day, I brought in a whole list of concerns that I had and questions that I needed to be answered.
Hmm.
So when we were going in our car ride on the first day to wherever place we were going like 35 minutes away. And I'm out of Milwaukee. So it was like 35 minutes away from Milwaukee. And before we left the parking garage, I just like stopped. I didn't move my car anywhere. I was like, I have some questions I need answered. And he just pretty much ignored all of them. It's called the AIR principle, which is what they used. It was acknowledge, ignore, and resume. So he just kind of acknowledged that I said it, completely ignored it, and was just like, all right, let's just like get going to the spot that we're gonna go to. You can ask him later, to the owner. And we went to the store. Obviously, my trainer, he was an owner, and he actually did very well. Um, so when we went out, he closed some sales for me. I rung the bell, which is just like hitting the standard. My entire first week, which was intriguing to me because we were doing Spectrum in Walmarts and stuff at the time. and every internet that you sold was at least $100. So I probably made at least $1,000 in my first week with barely even doing anything. So that was very attractive to me that he was able to show me how easy it was to make money because he was really good. I think anybody else that didn't have a trainer of the sales stature that he was at, they probably would have just quit right away because they wouldn't have made $200-300 that week. They might have made nothing. So that's what got me back for my second week.
Okay.
And the second week I started riding out with other people, not my trainer because he had more new people, just how the cycle goes. There's just new people every single week. And he had new people to train and he thought I could be independent enough. So I went up by myself and I kept going. I did really well in my second week. I finished a little bit short of what the quota was to get promoted to leadership. And I was like so angry at myself. I was really about to quit. I called my manager because I was so upset with myself that I didn't hit the standard. But then he had this whole long, systematic, robotic conversation that he probably had with one of his higher ups. Like he just texted me this, like, what do I say? That's pretty much every time that he had to have a tough conversation like that, I always knew it was just an answer thrown down at him from someone higher than him because that's all they did. Like networking was such a big thing, which I was never a fan of at all because it just like took up every night of the week. Every night of the week there was a networking call. I just had to listen to somebody, some higher up talk and throw information, throw some inspiration, motivation at us. And it was very repetitive. It's just a lot of the same stuff being heard over and over again. Um, and that was just another drawback for me. But yeah, it's just like the things that kept me coming back is just I was able to see how easy it was to make money very quickly because it was weekly pay too.
Mm.
And we were just having fun. Like I never been in a professional environment before, so I didn't know what it was supposed to be like. And it's like there was music, there are people my age, and things like that. So I just like enjoyed being part of a fun work environment. We were all friends. That's kind of the thing that holds everybody together. It's just the friendships and camaraderie that you have because like the job itself sucks, but because the relationships are so tight, that's what will keep people around.
Yeah, for sure. I agree with that just based on what I went through there, and I've heard that from so many people too. So there's a lot to unpack there. A lot of things I want to go back to, but the one that really caught my attention, and that's just because I've literally never heard of this before. So I'm really curious to hear about what its use is in the business. And that was what you described as the AIR principle. Acknowledge, ignore, resume, which sounds incredibly Devilcorp. I'm sure there's a reason I've never heard of this before because it's not real outside of this industry. But like, how did you learn that? When did you learn that? And how was it justified? Um, and what does it mean really? I know you said acknowledge, ignore, resume, but what is it related to?
Yeah, so it was just a sales tactic that we would use with potential customers that we were trying to sell to. Part of an objection circle. Anytime that there was objections, then there was a whole cycle for that you would follow. We had a whole booklet of systems that we would use. I think there was like 25 or 26 different sales tactics that we used. It was just very popular in conversations, like people who knew what it was and how to use it. We would just like joke about it because it's just like a really effective way to just like brush people off. Like
Mhm.
anybody that was like smart enough to know how to use it, then it was just a very manipulative technique to use. And it was effective because people didn't know that it was being used on them,
Mhm.
especially while it was like working with the customers, which was the point. It was supposed to be for the customers. But in this booklet of 25, 26 systems, it not only applies to sales tactics, but it applies to everything in the entire industry. So when it comes to managers talking to their employees, they'll use all the systems too. Like everything is just built
Yep.
around this. So even in conversation with your manager, if like I, being a senior executive, an owner was talking to my owner, I would catch it right away that he's using a different system on me, like because I was so advanced at this point
Yeah.
that it's just not going to be effective on me. So I just like call him out on it, and then he has to like have a real, actual emotional conversation, and that's what kind of sucks because like he was my friend,
Mhm.
and I was considering meeting with him and just like asking him like, why are you still doing this and everything? Because he's a smart guy, he could literally do anything else. He has enough experience. He's probably been in it for like 6 or 7 years now.
Mhm.
And I know his office here in Milwaukee is just like went to shambles now, but it's just brainwashed. Like
Mhm.
once you've been around these systems for so long, that's pretty much all you know, and you just speak in it, and
Yeah.
there's just no emotion attached to it at all. So once somebody's able to realize what they're doing to him, then you're able to just like call it out, and he's forced to have a more real conversation. It's just like very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Just because you break somebody out of the systems.
Mhm. So getting back to this specific tactic, acknowledge. So acknowledge, ignore, resume. Acknowledge, I understand, right? Because that's something that is a part of a lot of those tactics is acknowledge what is being said. Two no's and a go, all that stuff. Ignore. So I'm assuming that has something to do with ignoring the actual issue or the legitimate concern that's being raised, and then you resume in a way that kind of glosses over what was asked.
Yeah, exactly. So like if someone says, or if I'm asking somebody, like we did the phones too on the streets. So if I said to somebody, "Hey, did you get one of our phones yet?" or something like that, and they're like, no, I already have a phone," then acknowledging would be like, "Oh yeah, completely understand. Oh, you have a phone." Ignoring it would just be like they never said it. Like it's out of there. Um, but I can just check if you can get a new one if you have your ID. That would just be like resuming, just like going back to what I was initially gonna do anyways.
Mhm.
So it's like
Okay.
totally disregard whatever they said.
Okay. And you said that that was used on you in your objections or your questions of how the office was being run.
Yeah, all the time.
So what was an example of that? Like, um, of them just how do you feel like they did it looking back now? Did they just like use your words against you? Did they just reword themselves? Like, I'm not sure how that would even sound as someone who's been out of it for so long, but what do you remember about that?
Yeah, the person that was like two levels ahead of me, who was basically our regional consultant.
Hmm.
He didn't ever make it there because because I quit. So he didn't he I was like kind of bringing down his tree. Um but he was about to be regional consultant. He did it all the time. But he's a big guy, very intimidating. So when he used it, nobody really thought about it because they just thought he was just like mean.
Hmm.
Um but when I was having second thoughts about even being in the first place. There's like a couple times throughout my entire tenure that I wanted to quit. And then like they find out your goals right away. They find out what's really important to you. And that's what they use against you. So if I say like I want to quit, they'll like acknowledge it. Like, yeah, I know you want to quit, but you said it was really important to you that you're able to take care of your family, or you're able to buy courtside seats at a Bucks game because that's what was important to me. And they would just go on and on about what my goals were and how this would help me to get there and all that jazz. Um, but yeah, so that's kind of like an example of how the air principle would work there. They just kind of acknowledge that I wanted to quit. They would ignore whatever situation I had that I was bringing to attention and just go back to what my goals were in the first place and how this is going to benefit me.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. And honestly, now that you say it that way, it's stuff we've heard before. It just apparently has an official name now, at least in Credico, that manipulation tactic, because that's exactly what it is. We could call it a sales tactic, but it's a manipulation tactic. The air principle. So I guess that's officially they're now one step closer to at least admitting that they manipulate everybody they come in contact with, even though they'll never admit that. But so eventually you did everything you needed to do to get to owner. That's the goal that everybody, that I'd say 98% of the people who get involved in this, especially after a certain period, if you stay long enough, you dedicate yourself to it. That's what you're striving for. So how did that go? Take me through like promotion day and all that stuff.
Leading up to my promotion, the criteria was to hit $10,000 in revenue, which is just wire, they call it wire, 2 weeks in a row. And I'd gone on a couple road trips prior to that. And when you go on road trips to places that people don't normally sell in, then it's really easy to drive up the numbers. So I came back from my road trip, and in the morning meeting, I'm sure you already know about the morning meetings and everything like that.
Mhm.
Just in the morning meeting, um, my owner was giving the morning meeting, and he started just like reading off this whole paragraph of my story, basically how I started and where I was and everything. And then it's like, welcome Devin to management. Then they lit off the confettis and everything. Um, yeah, super corny. Um, and that day, still went to the field. I didn't get like a day off or anything, so I had to go work. Um, but yeah, they threw me in a new group chat with all the owners all across America, some on the global scale in different countries. And there's people writing congratulations and everything, which was cool to that point, just like being the owners chat with all the other people that
Mhm.
own offices and stuff. But it was just annoying actually, because you just seen more and more people get added to the chat like every week or so, because there's just new people getting promoted to management. So it's not really a rarity that people are just doing this anymore, because they kept making it easier and easier. Which is why nowadays people that are getting in the industry and opening offices, they're failing super quickly, because it's not as rare as it was before. There's just plenty of people opening offices and things like that. Um, because even the people that got added to the chat with myself, like I know when I was running my office, and even now that some that I'm still friends with, like they didn't do well at all. It's just the people that have been in it for like a super long time, like 10 plus years, that are regionals and national consultants now. There's the ones who are sitting pretty,
Yeah.
because they promoted all these outside deals, and the funnel's just gotten so big now that they're just profiting overrides off of everyone who opens up offices. They don't care if they're successful or not,
Yeah.
um, just because they're collecting passive income all the time from them. But
Yeah.
I got taken out to brunch. We had a big party at the club that they paid for. Saw that just to get people excited about it. That's really all the entire industry is just getting people excited about being excited, moving up, making money. Um, but yeah, once I got promoted, they set out this whole plan for me. It was like a 3 month goal of how to get me opened. And the thing that bothers me the most is that there is one part where my owner and someone myself was supposed to save between ten and $20,000 for me to open up my business. So when I officially opened up my business, then there's going to be something in the bank account so I can pay my bills, pay for recruitment, things like that. And that never happened. I opened up with $0.
Mm.
So I just had to build everything from the ground up, which was not good at all. Even one of my friends who literally just quit like a month ago, they were actually like taking that seriously, and he did have money saved up in the bank account. He probably had like $20,000, but he just got so sick of it that he quit. and he never saw a dime of that $20,000 that came out of his own pay. Because when you get promoted to a junior executive, you earn owner stroke. So it's pretty much just like double commissions for everything. But he was denying his owner stroke and just putting it in the business savings account for when he opens up. So he basically took a pay cut to put into his savings. But since he didn't open up, uh, our owner, he just kept all that $20,000, even though it was his own earned money. And they pretty much just took that away from him, and he's too nice of a guy to just like go after him and try to take back what he earned. But yeah, that was just the biggest thing for me, was just opening up with $0 in my bank account. It was really hard because I never really had over like $5,000 in my bank account when they promised me like, oh, you'll probably be making like $4,000 a week in the bank account, all things like that. You'll be making over 200K a year in this first year. Obviously, that's what they wanted me to do. Um, but the more money that I made, the more money that they made. So they're trying to just, I guess, make me motivated to get my people to sell as much as possible. Um, but yeah, I felt like I was very unprepared to open up an office. It was very rushed because, like I said, the guy who's like my regional consultant, he just needed me to be open so he could have a qualifying crew so he could get promoted again. So that's why I was so rushed, because I was the last leg there. So just very unprepared, very unorganized, and they were just telling me what to do. I had no autonomy over my business. That's the biggest reason why I stopped, because they promised me that, oh, it's your own business. You can run it how you want. If you don't want to do it this way, then you can try it a different way. But I know what's best for you, so I'm going to tell you to do it this way. Hopefully, you follow what I say. Um, but my whole big thing is when I opened up my own office is that I didn't want to do anything like the way that they were doing it, because it was just weird. Like all the culty weird stuff that they were doing is like I just wanted to get away from that the entire time. Like it was cool that I had my own business, but I didn't want to follow any of the ways that I was brought to that point for. And I was scrutinized for trying to do my things my own way. Um, and even when I did things my own way, when I made my own decisions and they worked, like no one congratulated me. No one told me I did a good job. Um, they just stayed silent. They waited for me to screw up so they could take back control and tell me what to do with my business again, so it's going to be successful. And there's just big feuds between me and the higher up managers trying to coach me, because I just didn't want to listen to them, but I was being told over and over again that I have to listen. And my biggest argument is like, it's my business. I want to run it how I want to run it. And that was it. I couldn't take it anymore. Um, they're telling me how to control my money in the bank account, and I just didn't want to listen to it. They were telling me how much I had to allocate to this and to this and to that, and they weren't even letting me pay myself. Sometimes I would have like $0 on my paycheck per week out of my own business just because they said I need to save it. Like I think the most that they would let me pay myself when I like bills or something was like $500. I'd like make more money being a rep working off commissions than being an owner, just because they were telling me I need to save this. They weren't going to let me touch my own money until I had like $50,000 saved in my bank account. And they're just like accusing me of stealing from my own business, which I don't know how that works, because I was paying myself more. That's what they told everybody when I quit, is that I was stealing from my own business. So it wasn't working out. Just because like I needed money to pay for my stuff out of my own business. So that's pretty much the end of it.
Did they ever answer the question, if this is my own business, I should be able to get to run it the way I want to? How is it then my own business? Did they ever, or did they just air principle you again?
Yeah, it was just the air principle. They just said like you can do it your way, but I'm where am now because I listened to the people ahead of me. So I suggest that you would do the same thing. if you want to have a business like mine, then you're going to do it my way and you're going to listen to me.
Man, that's a dark picture of ownership. And I've heard a lot of stuff the past 6 years, but that's dark. Yeah. So I'm sure this kind of led hand in hand, but you said at the beginning, before we started recording this, you said that you took a week-long vacation, and that's kind of how you started. I think that was your aha moment. You started questioning with clarity because you were away from it. You took yourself out of it for a while. Um, was that something you took because you kind of felt like you needed it because this place was just completely screwing your brain, or like what led to that? And take me through that ability to get clarity.
Yeah, it was both like I needed a break and it was also planned.
Yeah.
But what happened during that, because you're working Monday through Saturday from 7:30, 8 o'clock to sometimes 8, 9 o'clock at night, at least 12 hours. That's really all you know. Then you go home and write in your packet what your plans are for tomorrow and the next week and things like that. So that's all your brain knows. It's just like focused in on this one thing 6 days a week. And when I got into ownership, then there were Sunday calls for like an hour or two, or brunches with your team. So that took away the Sunday too. Um, and this is really all you know is just this business. You don't have any time for yourself. You don't have any time for relationships, family, things like that. Myself, even like once I got out, I had to like start reconnecting with my friends because like they forgot about me. I never had any time to hang out with them or anything. So it's kind of discluded me from everything because they already figured like I was working and I always said no anyways because I was working. So they didn't even bother asking anymore. But now we're good because they know that I'm out of that terrible business and actually have time to spend with people. Um, but yeah, just that vacation. I think anybody who is in that industry, if they literally just like took, sorry, there's a fruit fly right in my face.
Okay.
Um, but anyone in that business that wants to get away, if they just took like a week-long vacation, they would just like step aside and understand like how stupid like all of it is, just like going out in the streets in the hood and giving away phones to like crackheads basically is just like not a life that anybody wants, or just like doing the chants in the morning, working 12 hours a day. I think that many people are just so lost in the idea that they can make it to management and are so manipulated by the leaders that they believe in and just like all things that they give them. Like we had team nights and people just want to be a part of that culture because like we had fun. It's just like all manipulation though. Um, if they just took a week aside just to reflect on everything that they were doing with the selling and all the weird stuff and how the owners talk to you and things like that, they would realize that like I don't really want this for my life. Like I've lost connection with all these people in my life just because I'm so wrapped up in this business that I don't have any time to enjoy my own life.
So you take this vacation, you see things differently. What I know you said that you were going to tick off your regional because you quitting screwed him up from getting promoted again. Which, I mean, the layers. I mean, anyone who knows about this business and denies it's an MLM or a pyramid scheme, it's just based in ignorance because it's exactly
Oh,
the
yeah.
same thing. It might not legally be a pyramid scheme, but it's an MLM hands down. But anyway, so what was that conversation like with when you let whomever know that you were leaving?
Yeah, I just want to touch on a point that you just said about the pyramid scheme and MLM.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was the entire time, but on Saturdays they had these opportunity meetings really, where they just like explain what the opportunity is to like a lot of newer people, um, get them roped in, get them bought in. And sometimes on those they would explain the difference between what we were doing, what a pyramid scheme is, and what an MLM does, just to convince everybody that this is completely different from either of those. But part of that reflection is just like realizing if you had to explain what we're doing along with the pyramid scheme and MLM, then there's something wrong. Like
Yeah.
obviously, it's
Yeah.
probably a pyramid scheme or MLM if you had to explain what the difference is.
And if it has to be a scripted response, if you have to have a scripted response as to what, using very specific wording, what a pyramid scheme is, what an MLM is, and here's why we're neither of those things, here's why we're different. Well, yeah, why even need to have that? You're basically admitting that you are, just by needing to try to get out ahead of the criticism. So yeah, you're absolutely right. They're basically admitting that without admitting it. But yeah.
Yeah, but to the point of having those conversations, um, my leader, who was my promoting owner, he didn't have much to say. He was very indifferent. That was another one of the sales tactics, is just like being indifferent. Um, he was very indifferent because we were pretty good friends at the time. We were close. We would hang out all the time. Um, but business is business, so he didn't want to screw over his business. So after even the day I left, like I got word from the people that were working in my office who got transferred into his office. They're saying all this bad stuff that he was talking about me and my girlfriend because she quit like a few days before me. Um, and he's just talking about how we had a relationship and I was just screwing everything up and how I was stealing money from my business. Meanwhile, about the relationships thing, he, my leader, he was dating somebody who is also an owner now, but the guy, the regional ahead of us, he split them up. Like his girlfriend was on his team, and the regional caught wind of that, so he took her off his team and separated them for good. Like took them to completely different cities. So when we when that came out, that was a big thing. It was a bunch of hypocrites because now we learned that the regional, he's having relations with the admin and one of his owners. Um, and when I had the conversation with him on the phone, he asked me why I lied to him um, about being in a relationship with my girlfriend who was my employee. But I never lied to him because I just kept it a secret. I didn't tell anybody because I didn't want the same thing to happen to us because she was about to be an executive too. She was the best person that I had. Um, and I didn't want them to separate us, put us in different cities or anything like that, take her off my team. So we just kept it a secret the entire time. And he asked me why I lied to him. And I said, I didn't lie to you. I never told you. Like, I don't think lying and withholding information is the same thing. But he was really mad about that. He wasn't really mad about me quitting, but he was mad at the fact that I was like hiding this relationship with somebody on my team. Um, Even though everybody in this entire industry is in a relationship with somebody. Like
Well,
they keep
he was
then
probably mad at you because he couldn't use that against you. Had he known about it, whoever, I'm pretty sure I know who you're talking about. I won't name him unless you name him, but you're regional. But he and your promoting owner, they want to know, like you said, your goals are known very early, and then the more comfortable you get, the more personal information that they want to know about you. So he's probably upset because he framed it as a lie to obviously attack your character, to make it seem like you're a liar. But he wanted to, he's looking back on it now and is like, well, if I knew about that, then I could have used that against you or manipulated you in some way using some type of an emotional argument with that relational knowledge. And that's probably why he's more angry than you quitting, is because he missed on a chance of really being able to manipulate you.
Yeah, and he probably could have saved his tree if he could do something about it, because if you like something taken away from you in that industry, then like it just makes you want to work harder to get it back,
Mm-hmm.
whatever it may be. And he just asked me if this is really what I wanted to do. And I was like, yeah, I'm done. And he was just like, okay. Um, the accountant administrator person, she had like a whole ton of jobs. Is gonna contact you to close down your business. And she never did. And I still had $1,000 left in my business account, and that was just like transferred to my owner. Like I didn't even get that.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, that's how it went. And I cooperated. I said like whatever you need from me
Mm-hmm.
that will like so I'm not just like screwing anybody over, because like I said, he was my friend.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't want to sabotage him or anything like that. So if you need anything from me, like I'll take care of it.
So how did we get from that ending, which seems like it ended on as amicable terms as you possibly can in Devilcorp, to today?
One of one of the people that used to work for me, they actually showed me your video, The Slave Circle. And me and my girlfriend just watched it one night, and our jaws were just like on the floor the entire time. Just because we knew everything, every single thing that was happening. Like we lived it for a year plus, and it was just we just felt like so dumb that we just didn't put everything together first and realize how stupid what we're doing, how stupid it was.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and we just kind of got obsessed with just like convincing all of our other friends just to get out, because we just like hated it so much what it did for our lives, like all the things that we missed out on,
Mm-hmm.
and we just didn't wish that for anybody else, and we didn't want anybody to join. We didn't want our friends that were in it to still be in it. Um, I think there's literally only like one person left that
Mm-hmm.
we care about that was close to us. That's like still doing it because he's just like too far in.
Yeah.
Like you can't take him out when you're in a hole that far. And yeah, I just wanted to let people know just like how terrible of an industry it is, and it's just like built on lies and manipulation. Um, Even the exciting idea of owning your own business and making a ton of money when you get to ownership is just like not what it seems it is. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's not how they paint a picture for you at all.
Mm-hmm.
I noticed in a lot of your videos you didn't have too many people that were actually owners before who have gotten to the top and explain what that portion is like. So I just want to give a different
Yeah.
perspective for people that think just because somebody didn't make it to ownership, then it's like, oh, they don't really know because they didn't make it all the way. So they're not making
Right.
the type of money that all my owners are saying that they're making. But it's really not like that at all, because a
Sure.
lot of people that get to that stage are just pushed off to the side. They're open, so you make overrides off them, and that's all they care about.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, the overwhelming number of owners that we've talked to so far have said very similar things about ownership. And yeah, no, I understand that argument that is put forth about, well, some of these people never made it to owner, including myself, whatever. But we have had owners on this in this series, and multiple have even said, I wasn't living the life I was advertising. I was making, like you said, you were making almost nothing. Had you continued for a year, I shudder to think how awful your tax forms would have looked at the end of the year, as an owner. But yeah, we've had owners openly admit that they lie about how much money they're making. um we've had top owners, at least two, I would say, at least two top owners in Smart Circle who've done interviews, who've said, they gave their all a year plus, and they weren't able to make it. And I think part of it goes back to something you said earlier, that they're just promoting out people now. There seems to be more of a stress on the overrides and just getting people promoted. I feel like, there could be a couple reasons for that. One of them could be the increased awareness about these companies, so it's getting harder to keep people because there's a lot more information about them now. But also, just like it's the same thing with the MLM oversaturation is, the reason that so many people fail in MLMs is the market gets saturated so quickly. And by now, that has to be happening. I mean, I know that these Devilcorps are always trying to reinvent themselves and sell new products and sell new services, but eventually you're going to get through enough people where a good amount of the population is going to realize, oh, I know what this is, and it's a scam, and I'm not going to get involved. So it's probably a lot harder for them. And we won't know this for sure because they'll never admit this. They'll never admit defeat. But it's probably a lot harder for them now to hire people and to retain those people because there's so many things out there. And the market is oversaturated.
Yeah, I feel like even in Milwaukee, we like hired everybody that could have been hired in Milwaukee. Like every person that exists in Milwaukee has been through and out of our office.
Yeah. Yeah, and I often wonder how smaller cities, like the closest big city to me is Indianapolis, which is not really a big city compared to places like Chicago, which is a lot closer to where I'm from. But I know there are multiple offices operating in Indianapolis right now. When you combine them all, right? Smart Circle, Sidcor, Credico, and any others, Universal Events. So I don't know how they coexist in a small market like that, but they do. And when one office closes down, when one office closes down, another owner is there right away, and they'll probably fail too. But something I did want to ask you is, you said that you kind of became inspired to get people out of this, at least the people out of Devilcorp. And that's a very sensitive subject because, as you know, especially with the one person you said who's still in, the deeper you get in, the more you just ignore what other people are saying. So even if you went to them and showed them the slave circle, they're perfectly normal to think, oh, that's just some neghead making up stuff. So how did you approach these people that you've been able to get out, and maybe even if you want to dive into the other person who's there and how they haven't taken your feedback?
Yeah, the people that we did approach, we knew that this was like their job, like this is what they're doing to make money.
Mhm.
So if they couldn't like find something, like it's not like they have like thousands of dollars saved up in the bank account where they just can quit and get a new job right away. Like it took me like 5 months to secure like a really good job after I quit there. So I know it's like difficult to like pull somebody away from their job. But how we did it is just like we invited them out to do fun stuff and basically just like kind of um just gloated about how good our life was, just like not being in it, like how much free time we had to do stuff that we wanted to, how much money that we were actually saving, because you like lose like more money than you make because you have to take people out for team nights, dinners, buy your new people lunch and stuff like that, pay for all your gas. And it was just nice to show them that we have like money in the bank account from not spending it all and reinvesting in what is supposed to be our career. Um, and because it's kind of eye-opening for people who are inspired by an owner or someone who's like one of the best sellers to just up and quit. So when you're an owner and you quit, or someone who's really close to it and you quit, and you just like throw everything away that you worked really hard for the past year or so, that catches people's attention. So because we had such good relationships with those people, we're just able to be honest with them, and we're able to talk about just like how bad this is. Like now that we're at home and have free time and stuff to reflect on what we're doing, we're just able to tell them flat out, like, you shouldn't be doing this. Like this isn't the career you want to be in. Like take it from me who invested almost 2 years of my life just like missing out on stuff and being basically broke, um to just stand out in the street and in the cold here in Milwaukee and just do that. And they just kind of like had a change of mind, like, yeah, you're right. I don't want to be doing this, especially like if you don't want to be doing it. It's called it's another one of the systems, effective Jones, where if one person's doing something, and they're like a credible source or whatever, then other people will follow suit. So
Mhm.
just kind of being the leader of quitting, then just like people started to follow along because if everybody's doing it, then everybody's gonna be doing it,
Yeah.
right? So it just like people funneled out week by week. I'm sure when I was there in my final week, we probably had about 50 to 60 people total in the entire office. And by now, I think there's 15 or less from what I last heard, just because everyone started realizing that everybody quitting is just like a red flag for everybody and they shouldn't be doing this. So the more people that can quit in the masses, then the better it's going to be, to bring down all the offices.
Yeah. And that's a really good point too, because yeah, if especially when an office your size, I didn't realize your office was that large, but um and as an owner, you are revered by your entry level and your team leaders, right? Because you've made it. Even if you yourself aren't making any money and have no free time and literally hate your life, you still have to continue to lie to them that the opportunity is real, which we all know by now the opportunity is not real.
Yeah, that was the worst
Um,
part of it.
but they have brought up, they have this image in your mind of in their mind of how successful you are, and you just up and quit. So yeah, that does make sense, and I'm glad that at least for the people that you knew in there, you went the additional mile to kind of talk to them honestly about being an owner, um because you had just done it, right? And I think that's a good add to credibility in this video too, because you're going to get the whole, oh, he's just a failed owner stereotype and all that stuff, but if you're able to communicate with honesty to your former crew, this is what it really is. Yeah, that's admirable, and then they were able to accept that. So that might be something that previous owners want to do if they come across this video, is if you're thinking of leaving, you may just want to just be honest, be literally honest, not Devilcorp honest, but literally actually honest with your office about what's happening. Because, yeah, if you feel like you've been wronged or scammed or whatever, which you have been, yeah, like you said, one of the best ways to bring down, if we can, the system is, yeah, people leaving en masse, and they'll recover, they'll still hire because they have excellent manipulation tactics to get people in the business. And that was another question I wanted to ask you, because you've said a couple times in this video, you realize, like, I think you even said how stupid it was, right? How ridiculous it was what you were doing. Why do you think they were able to still manipulate you so well?
It kind of goes back to just how much they knew about me on a personal level
Okay.
and what my goals were, where I was trying to get. Um, and they started giving me more responsibility. I started to feel like I was somebody. Um, like you get a lot of special recognition, like to anybody, like recognition and being respected feels good. So once they give you that and they give you some sort of leadership, like as I was coming up, I started doing all the training classes. Like that was my responsibility. Um, I was taking out all the new people to train them. Um, so I really felt like I was doing something and making a difference because I had so much responsibility. Um, and I was still making money at the time. So they took advantage of that
Mhm.
because if they knew that I was making money, then they knew I could make it on a bigger level. And they're just telling me all the time that I'm so close. If I do this, this, and this, then I'm gonna be in my own office. I'm gonna be making this much money, things like that. Um, it was my own fault for feeding into it so much. Because I felt myself getting closer and closer and closer. So the more information that they threw at me and the more um things that they fed me, I would just eat them up and do what they say. Because if you know that you're good and you know that you're moving up the ladder like that, then you just kind of want to listen to whoever's in the spot that you want to be in. You want to listen to what they have to say and take that information. And they sent me to a couple different cities to like experience those owners and how they do things in their office, and just have conversations with them. Oh, the biggest thing was on my first day, which really got my buy-in, was I had a networking call. On the night I went home, my leader called me. He's like, "Hey, can you not hop on a FaceTime call right now with this person who's in LA?" And he kind of reminds me of you and how you started. And he hopped on the phone call and he was just kind of flexing that he was like in his Tesla, and he panned to this car that I really wanted, a BMW i8. He's like, "Oh yeah, I just bought this too." And he's like moving it's like plastic wrap in his house. Like, "Oh yeah, I'm just remodeling. This is my third house or whatever." And he was just kind of spitting information at me, and motivation, because my owner being smart enough to know like this is someone that I want to be like, and be able to have this level of money and the cars and the houses and everything. Like if you just like do what we say, like you can end up like this. And that's what got my bought in from day one. I totally forgot about that, but that was like the
Yeah.
biggest thing. So I just want to be like this guy because he had everything that I wanted.
Yeah, that'll lock you in. Especially if you're money motivated, that'll definitely lock you in. So this Devilcorp that you were a part of was Credico, the network of Credico offices. When did you learn about that name?
I think it was when I saw an invoice. I saw an invoice from my manager's laptop that just said Credico, and he was just like, "Oh, that's where we get paid from." And Credico was like really hidden. Like if people didn't like ask the questions and do the digging to find out what Credico was, like no manager wants to just like give away like, "Oh, this is our parent company that opens up all of our offices and handles all the relationships with the companies we sell for and all that." Um, and Reddit post really. I just looked up my owners' names and other owners that I knew within the industry, and I always kept seeing Credico linked to it. And I would see on Reddit like it's like potential scam, anti-MLM, stuff like that. But when I brought it to the attention of whoever in the office, they were just like, "Oh, like this person never made to ownership, so they're just like negging out or whatever on the internet and don't pay any attention to it," things like that. Um,
It's crazy how they follow the exact same script. Like I knew you were gonna say that before you even said, like when you said you brought this to someone's attention, I knew what they were gonna say. That they were bitter, that they didn't make it, and all, because they they've been trained. They've been trained to say that. It's incredible. Um, so Devin, having been in this industry as long as you were, that there is manipulation with a capital M throughout this business, but they keep getting people into this based on, like you said, the opportunity meetings. So whether it's a Saturday or Sunday conference call, or the weekly or the morning meetings where they break down the fake numbers, like as you said, you paid yourself nothing as an owner, supposedly going to make six figures as an owner, but they conveniently forget to pay you, apparently. What advice do you have for people who, um to maybe prevent them from getting involved in this, like as an owner, as someone who obviously had to keep a positive image of your business and your name? Like what's a real Achilles heel to these Devilcorp companies?
I would say just having individuality, just not feeding into everything that they're teaching you. First of all, before you would even apply or interview for a job like that, now when I was doing my job search over the past like 3 or 4 months, I always looked up the company that I was interviewing for if I haven't heard of it before. And I found at least like 4 or 5 more scam companies out there just by doing the research first. So I think that'd be the biggest thing, is like if there's any signs from anybody on the internet, reviews and whatnot, that this could potentially be a scam, then just like don't go for it at all. Um, what else do they hate? They hate they hate negative influences. Like anybody who is if one of the managers got word that like someone's like slightly negging out, or they want to quit, or they're talking bad about something, then they're gonna basically take that person away from everything. They're not gonna let them go on any ride outs. They're gonna put them solo and everything, and just wait for them to quit because they don't want that negative influence going off on anybody else. Um, if you don't follow the systems, they don't like that. Like if you're not brainwashed, if you have like a mind of your own, they don't like that either. Um, it's really difficult to dive into them unless you can actually take a step back and think. Like if there's any type of burnout that someone's experiencing, or you think like something's wrong, or you think this is a little bit weird, then just take a couple days and reflect at what you're doing, because any person in their right sense of mind that's not constantly having their brain wrapped around this industry can realize like this is not okay. This is not a career for anybody. This is not gonna lead me to where I want to go. This isn't even gonna pay my bills, basically. That's all it takes, is just to take a break, take a step back, and understand what your job here is and what you're trying to achieve and what the people say to you, the conversations that they're having, the information that they're feeding you. It's just like it's all not normal. There was one point where it was in the winter time, and we were driving up to Green Bay from Milwaukee, which is about a 2.5 hour drive, and all of a sudden just started snowstorming. And I was driving my car. I had 4 other people in the car with me, so there was 5 of us total in that car. And we started sliding out, and we crashed in between a wall and a semi. Um, just because they wanted us to go on this trip 2.5 hours away in a snowstorm. I completely totaled my car. We all had to get transported to the hospital in ambulances. And I was off a few days with that because I probably had like the least injuries. I had like a very mild concussion. That was it. Other people had like bloody noses and glass in them and stuff. So I got the the least of it. Um, but the regional consultant, he called me when I was just like at home in my bed, just like recovering, really just like taking time off because like I don't know what I was gonna do. I wasn't gonna get to work. I lived like 25 minutes away, so I would just have to Uber every day with my own money, which is just like $30, $40 Uber, which I'm worried about trying to get a new car and everything and handling my insurance and it's like handling the entire accident while recovering from injury and everything that just happened. And the regional consultant called me and he's just like, why aren't you there? Why aren't you in the office? And I just told him because I don't have a car. I just got in an accident. I'm a little concussed. Um, and he's just like, you can take an Uber, like just like anything to get me in there. Didn't matter what my condition was, doesn't matter what my real life concerns were about just like getting a car and getting money and stuff like that. So I just like Ubered myself in. Like I was trying to make every excuse not to go in, but he kept on overturning it to the point where I was just like, okay, like he basically suggested to me what I'm gonna do and made it happen just like by manipulation. Um, so I went into work and it just like wasn't a good time. Really, I was still like worried about how I'm gonna get a new car. They ended up getting me a rental car for a week. They paid for it for a week because they kind of took a little bit of the responsibility for me going out in the snowstorm and totaling my car and everything. So they got me a rental car for a week, but that obviously wasn't enough time for me to get a whole new car. So I told him like, hey, I'm gonna extend the rental. Is that okay? And he's like, yeah, do what you need to do. So I extended it for like another 3 weeks. So I had like for a month total. And we were returning the car and it was in his name because he's the one who rented it out for me. And I brought him back the receipt because I paid for it by myself. It was like $2,000. And I paid for it by myself, expecting a reimbursement, and he didn't give me a reimbursement. So I called my regional manager and was basically just like yelling at him, very upset about like why do I have to pay for this? Like this was supposed to be covered for me because you guys wanted me to come into work and make sales for you. So why isn't this being covered for me? Like this was your idea in the first place. And he's trying to make me feel bad about it and everything. And why haven't I got a new car yet? Why did I extend the rental? Just like laying all these things on me. And I was just very upset and he ended up paying for like half of it back. So I got like $1,000 back of it, but I still had to pay 1,000 out of my own pocket, which wasn't even what I was making in a week. So there was that. They just wanted you to spend all your own money to build up their own business.
Mhm. And likely because like your owner probably didn't have the money anyway. It's because you know how little owners make. Um, so there was no way he was going to pay that.
Yeah,
Yep.
absolutely.
And I'm sure the regional framed it as this noble thing he was doing, right? To pay this $1,000 for you. Like I'm sure he talked himself up to no end about how good, and even if he didn't do it to you, I'm sure he's used that as an example with other people.
Oh yeah, any little thing that they would do that like makes them look good, they're gonna make a huge deal out of it.
Yeah.
I just wouldn't wish this for anybody else to be involved in that. And if you can realize that you're in it, just like get out as soon as possible.